Righty. Hello. We are loading in and getting the people ready. You look like a superstar.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome,
Oh,
welcome, 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 welcome. We are getting loaded in. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate having you with us this evening. My name's Holly Holiday, and I'm the co-lead for 1 Million Black Voters Rising and the president of Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote. And we're so excited to have you joining us this evening. We have a lot to talk about, but the main thing is, and the most important thing is that this is the training. This is the conversation. This is the discussion where each of us get to learn how to have the real conversation with the folks that we are most interested in registering to vote and engaging in voter activities. If you haven't attended our phase 2 training, which talks about how to build your circle, who we should be talking to, how we get them to be a part of our circle, and who we should be targeting, then don't miss that one. We are starting this series all over again on June 20th. But today we're closing out with phase 3, and today is the conversation about the conversation, literally. This is where you learn not just how we should be registering people, because that is important. But really, what we're going to talk about today is how we engage people. How do we ensure that all of our folks feel like they are part of our community? Because they are. This is where we reach out to voters who are typically marginalized, and we invite them in and say, hey, people, we need you to be part of this conversation. It doesn't start with a lecture, it doesn't start with shame. It starts with a deep interest and engagement. It starts with inviting them to have a conversation. And it is my honor and privilege tonight to be joined by my sister, friend, and trainer, the extraordinary, wonderful Chantel Mullen. And she serves so many purposes, but one of them is as the special projects director for Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote. She is also the key author of this training. She has taken this idea, which I want to remind you all is not just a good idea, but is an idea that is backed by deep research, by advocates, and by people who do this all the time, like me and you and some others. But this is really about engagement, community, and then how we take our whole community to vote. We're not doing this in isolation anymore. It is not enough for you to show up as one person and say, I did something. One person, we want you to bring 10. When 10 come, we get 100. We get 100, we get 10,000. And when we get 10,000, that ride to 1 million is a really short walk. And if 1 million extra voters showing up to vote make a difference. Think about races that you've had in your community where it's only been a span of a few votes, a few hundred votes. So you doing this work in your community matters. So tonight, we want you to dig in and figure out how to do this in a way that's not just about building voting, it's about building community, and dare I say, building power. Chantel?
yes, good sister Holiday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, we are here to have a conversation about how to have conversations because we want you to be well equipped to go out and tackle and have the conversations we need to have with our community, with our family members, with our neighbors, with our church members, with colleagues at work. And so I want to start by saying thank you because you could choose to be anywhere tonight or this evening, and we appreciate you taking a little bit of your time this evening to learn about some new concepts. So, with that, we will jump right into this training. So, If you've been to any of our other trainings, we have talked about that this is going to happen in 6 phases. And if you are new to this training, don't worry. We have recorded the other trainings. We will also be redoing those trainings. So if you have questions, we will be going back over this information. And so our first phase was recruiting. We were recruiting our circle leaders, and that's where we started. Our second phase was building your circle of 10. Start identifying the 10 people you want in your circle. Start to build relationships with them. Start to look at have them check their voter registration. And now we are here, phase 3, and we're going to talk about having those conversations with our circle of 10. The main thing I want you to keep in mind about these circles or about these conversations that you're going to have with your circles is, one, they're circle conversations and not individual conversations. So these are group conversations. And as the circle leader, you'll be doing more listening than you will talking. So, what is our phase 3? Well, what it is a conversation where how your circle members actually feel about voting. But that's not where we're going to start. We're actually going to start with them talking about how they feel and how they feel about the issues. And then we're going to bring them along as we deepen that relationship and talk about voting. In this conversation, you may hear some of their skepticism. And this is where we listen to that and not dismiss it. And then we're going to have 4 big conversations, and they're going to be anchored across the campaign cycle, each anchored by a toolkit that we are going to share with you. And then let's talk about what it is not. It's not our traditional voter registration drive, because we are not talking to people who are strangers. These are people who you are already in community with. And so we're not, also, as Holly mentioned earlier, this is not a lecture, and we're not doing pressure and shame. You know, some of the things we've heard before are, why people, you should vote because people died, or you should vote because people fought for you. We're going to talk about something different, because what we found from the research is that does not work. That is not moving voters. And so it's not a one size fit all. And so there's multiple conversations, there's multiple ways that we can get to the end result. So we want to start by what it is and what it isn't. So our 4 main conversations, here's our roadmap. We're going to start by asking and finding out what our circle cares about. What matters to them? What are the issues that keep them up at night? What are the issues that will move them to action? And so our circle leaders will be leading that conversation, and you'll be taking notes, because you want to know what is it that you could help connect that person with and to the power and to move them. The second conversation is going to be how they feel about voting. Because once you know what they care about, then you can figure out how do they feel about voting and why. And this is where you'll hear their skepticism. This is where you'll hear why they tell you why they're not voting. And this is where we're going to ask you to listen to those reasons. And it's not to fix it. We want to acknowledge what we're hearing from them. And we want to make note of that because the conversations will be ongoing. The third major conversation is going to be the ballot. And through all of this, we'll be checking voter registration. We'll be doing it together using resources from vote.org, which are quick and simple that you can do during your circle meetings. But the third conversation is the ballot. Not so much to figure out who they should vote for, but what is on that ballot. And looking at the candidates, looking at the ballot measures, but also looking at those offices and thinking back to the issues that the people in your circle care about. So, for instance, if you have a person in your circle and their issue is like safety in schools or school funding, well, you may want to talk about is a school board race on your ballot and how to connect that race to their issue. And that may help them see, well, here's a way that I can impact my local community. Our last conversation is going to be about the voting plan. Each member of your circle should have a voting plan. This should talk about when and why and how they're going to vote, because this also leads you into a conversation about barriers, because we often think that people might not be voting just because they don't want to vote, but there could be real issues that keep them from voting or having an easier access to voting, such as transportation, such as understanding when and where voting is taking place, where they can go to vote, if they have a disability, what accommodations do they need, or what accommodations are actually available for them. And so everybody should build in their election, their voting plan. And each member of your circle should have that, and it should address any barriers that they may have. So, conversation number one, let's dive just a little bit deeper. What would that look like? It would look like maybe having an opening question of what's going on with you? What's happening right now that the government could fix or somebody in power could actually fix? It could be someone telling you, well, my Social Security check hasn't arrived. It could be, I think groceries are too high. It could be, I don't think the schools are safe, or the schools need more funding. Or it could be, the roads need to be fixed. What is it that they think, what are their issues? And what is it how is government impacting those issues? Or how do they want those issues fixed? And so you want to set the container, and the container is the issues that are impacting them. And then once you get into those issues, we want to ask more questions and listen. As circle leaders, we're asking you to ask the question and get out of the way. You want to hear what people are really feeling and what issues are impacting their life. And then you want to go deeper on whatever they name. And the reason you're doing that is because you want to connect and collect specific details so that you can anchor the conversation in what follows. As you are having this conversation, take notes because you really want to know what is impacting and important to each member of your circle. And then, a no pressure offer to check their registration. And you can show them how to do it on their phone, or y'all can do it together if you happen to be in the same place. But just check their registration. When we get to conversation number 2, we're going to dive a little bit deeper because we do want to know how they feel about voting. Not if they are voting, but how they feel about it. And so you want to have an opening question that mentions, the last time we were here, you mentioned your Social Security. What's happened since? Is there anything that makes you feel better or worse, more or less about that? Because we want to open not just with a general question, but with a question for your circle about the issues that they named in your first conversation. You want to know how's that going? Are they worried about it, more or less? Has anything in the news been concerning to them? And then once you have them talking about that issue and how it's going, you want to connect them to what they care about to political decisions. Maybe naming a specific office, a specific decision, a specific impact. We're not talking about parties. This is a nonpartisan conversation. We're talking about power and how power is exercised. And if this office does this office does that. And if you want people to do this, you've got to elect people who do that. And so we want to make it really concrete to our folks. We've got some research-based pain points because economics is a point across all of this. People are feeling the economics. And so Medicaid cuts, they impact about 60% of Black youth. The tariffs are cutting across middle income families. Lots of rollbacks. Just pick a concern or pick a pain point and discuss that with your group to see if that connects with them. And then what we want to do is start to introduce voting as protection, not as civic duty, which has been kind of historically how we've talked about voting from a civil rights perspective, that it is a civic duty. You owe this duty. There's an obligation for you to go vote. Your ancestors, we've all heard that discussion. We don't want to do that. We want to introduce voting as protection for the specific issue that they talked about. We want to let them know that there are people making the decisions about their issues. And so voting is how you impact that. And then we want to handle the skepticism because it's going to come. And here we're asking, well, you may get some pushback. But what we want to encourage you to do is say, I hear you. I hear you. Tell me more about why you feel that way. Because we're not trying to win an argument. We are really trying to stay in relationship. And we're really trying to understand the pain and the forces that are driving people to make the decisions. And we're also going to use that when we go over to our next conversation. Because when we go to conversation 3, we're going to talk about the ballot. And so a possible opening question is, we've talked about all of the things that matter to you and the system, but we want to look at who's actually on the ballot and what they control. because they need to understand that people on the ballot control things that impact their lives every day. Cultural. We want to make it less like a civics lesson, and more cultural. So we've got some suggested formats. We've got a fantasy draft ballot. We've got a spades and sample ballots. We also have a house party. These are all things that you can do to kind of lower the temperature, because when you start talking about voting, people have anxiety. And so we want to do something a little bit different, to help kind of lower their anxiety, make it more cultural than a civics lesson. We also are asking that you start local and not nationally. We're talking about your school boards, your city council, your um, county, your city council, and your state legislature. These races control a lot of what happens in their daily lives. The presidential race, while we have a lot of focus on that, the local races are touchable. And one of the things that I often like to tell folks is there are over 500,000 elected offices in the United States. 537 of those offices serve at the federal level. There's one president, one vice president, 100 senators, and 435 representatives. The rest of your elected officials, that 499,900 and whatever that number is, that is the all of the officers that are serving at the state and local level. There's over 400,000 elected officials at that local level. And so we have to have people understand that the power actually resides in their state and community. We're using nonpartisan, values-based framing. This is not about endorsements or political parties. We want to connect the power to the races. If schools matter most, we want to talk about the school board and who's running for school board. You want to frame it in an issues. Here are your issues. Where is your issue on the ballot? And then let them use that to start making conclusions. You still want to be doing voter registration, because we are doing voter registration the entire time. Someone may not have wanted to register in conversations 1 and 2, but they may be ready by conversation 3. So we always want to extend that opportunity. And then we're asking our circle leaders to report back, because we need data to support our efforts. We want to know, like, how many people are attending your conversations, who got registered, because we got to track that number to get to 1 million. Our last conversation is the plan. And so we want to make sure that everyone in our circle has a voting plan. And it's important that you do this in the circle, in making sure that this is a group conversation, because you can help each other formulate the plan. You're going to come up with an individual plan, but you're going to have this conversation as a group. Folks need to know where they're voting. Are they doing it early or election day? And you should have a conversation about the benefits of each and who has it available, because you may have circle members that are in multiple states. So it may require that you know multiple things about the election day, which is where our vote.org partner comes in, because when you're registering, there's a lot of information right there for that particular state. It should help people understand, do you need to take time off from work? Do you need a ride? Where is your polling place? Has your polling place moved? Because we all should be regularly checking our polling place, because there's a lot of things going on right now around redistricting. We want to address barriers in real time. Do they have ID? Do they have the right ID? Is their ID current? Um, what else do they need to take to the poll with them? Do y'all want to go as a group if y'all live near each other? You can come up with some real time strategies. I have friends who meet up, they go vote together, and then they go have coffee afterwards and talk about the ballot. So you can help them formulate all kinds of rituals and plans around to address those barriers. You want to walk them through the ballot. Everybody should look at their ballot ahead of time. There is a real thing where people get to the polling site and skip races because they don't feel like they've spent enough time to know which candidate to pick. We often lose power because people are skipping down ballot races. And so reviewing that ballot is really important because you want to help them know who are the candidates on the ballot. Hey, well, let's look them up. Let's go to their website. Let's review what their issues are. If there are community forums happening, or if there have been forums that are available online, hey, let's watch this and see what we can learn about these candidates. You want to help them learn how to know as much as possible about those candidates and do it in a group setting so the group can learn together. You want to create an accountability structure because if we say we're going to go vote, you want to check in with them to make sure they are voting. But we're using low stakes accountability language. No pressure. We just wanted to check in with you. Good morning. Happy voting. Text me a picture of your smiling face, or, in my state, you get a I voted sticker. We had a ritual where we would go and post our I voted stickers in our chat group. You can be creative with your accountability plan. And you also want to make sure that you are celebrating the wins. If you've got people who are just registering to vote, that's a win. If you've got people who looked and reviewed their sample ballot, that is a win. If you've got people who completed uh, their voting plan, that's a win. We have got to celebrate all of the wins because what that does is encourage people to get to the next win. And so we want them to know that the circle has them and the circle celebrates them. So, one of the things that we hear a lot about is what happens when people are very skeptical about voting. You're going to have that because that's actually who we are targeting. We all have folks in our networks, in our circles, our friends, our churches, where we work that did not go vote. It's really easy to say, oh, we're going to do voter registration. This is a little bit differently. We are focusing on the people who are in our circle, our own people who did not show up. And so we want to start having those conversations with them so that we can encourage them to show up this year, next year, and the year beyond. And so when they say things like, my vote doesn't matter, um, you want to hear it. You don't want to argue with them, but you want to understand um, what they want to see changed. If they say they used to vote, but they stopped, ask why. Why aren't you voting? What happened? Because if you can figure out what broke their trust, you can start to help them rebuild it. They don't trust any of them. They don't like any of the politicians. Well, we're not here to defend any of the politicians. That's not our role. We're here to redirect them to the ballot itself, and we're trying to connect their issues to what's on the ballot, what represents them, and um, how that impacts them in their life. And they may think, oh, the system is rigged. You know, I understand there, we understand there have been some challenges. And it's not always about asking them to trust the system. It's about asking them to stay at the table with you, and let's think about how we can together change our community. How can we figure out how to bring power to our community? What do we have to do to make that happen? And so, one of the things we want to make sure we're doing, because I've mentioned it a few times, is registering your circle. We are going to be using the tool vote.org. It has voter registration available in all 50 states and territories. It's free, it's simple, it's non-partisan. The best thing is, it's really, really quick. You can pull it up on your phone. I ask all circle leaders to pull that up and bookmark it. It has deadlines for all of the states. Um, it is, like I said, it's really, really easy to do. As a circle leader, as your circle is getting registered or checking their voter registration, you should be checking that. You should be keeping track of that, because we're going to ask you to report back, because we will need to know how we're registering voters, because we've got to track our registrations. Our conversations, this is a long process. And so our 4 conversations across the arc, all of them build on the last. We want to go from what they care about to how they feel to what's on the ballot to what's their voting plan. It is an arc. Actually, it's a circle, because sometimes you may have to circle back to one of those conversations, but it is a full circle. Just some reminders. Start with how they feel, not with if they're registered. This is not our typical voter engagement plan. We're not going straight in and talking about, are you registered? We are talking about how people feel and what they care about. And we want to make sure that we are tracking the issues that they're highlighting. And we're going to be ready for pushback, because we know we've got some people who are not going to vote. And so we've got to hear we got to be willing to hear what their reasons are and engage with them. And it's going to take some patience and some presence. And we're not arguing with them. We're not arguing with them. And so, some of them may not be as engaged as we like, but we're not going to drop them. We're going to still remain in relationship with them. And we're not going to make any assumptions, because we're not going to assume they know when and how to vote. We're gonna treat them as if they don't know, and we're going to find all the information together. And so that is what we're building. These are our circle conversations. Up in the corner, you will notice a really cool QR code that was built by our good sister, Holly Holiday. And we have another tool for you that's available at that link. And I am going to
Before
share.
you go there, I just want to share something really important. We are doing this as part of 1millionblackvotersrising.org, and our tools are powered by vote.org. But I want to encourage you to do your registration and your verifications and all of your sign up and tools through 1millionblackvotersrising.org. That really helps us to help you to know who you've registered and to be able to track all the things. So vote.org is an excellent resource. But for the purposes of this work and this training, please use 1millionblackvotersrising.org. All the tools are there. Also, we will include that in all of the assets and toolkits, QR codes that you can take with you to do all the things. Because Chantel is right. We want to make this easy, 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 easy for you. Okay, go ahead,
Yes.
Chantel.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you for dropping the website. Um, Keep in mind, everyone, that the website is our hub for resources. So the links are there, the information is there, the resources are there, upcoming events are there. So make sure that you go and bookmark. I would encourage you to share it on your social media because you may have some friends who don't know about this effort, or this may be a soft way to introduce your friends to this, or text them the link and say, hey, check this out. Would this be something you would like to do? Because you know what? While we've got our 1,000 circle leaders, there's still room for more. We want more. We want more. So, with that, I wanted to share one additional resource because we have a Circle Leader Community Conversation Guide. We know that you are going to have a lot of conversations. So, we wanted to put together using the research that came from HIT Strategies and the Black Ops Project, some talking points for you. So when specific issues pop up in your circle conversations, here is a place that you can go to look at. Well, here's some talking points that I may be able to use. It covers a litany of conversations. Um, like cost of living and groceries. So we have an economic pain section. We have a proof that action works section. And in that economic pain, there's some talk points and conversation starters around healthcare and Medicaid, what people are fighting for. Is it your family and your children? Is it rights? Are there men's issues? We got them all, y'all. If there's some barriers, we wanted to talk about, well, what people have real fears and risk of jumping out here. What about it won't matter anyway? We've got a conversation starter with some tips in here for you. We've got some touch points, some chat topics. We got some personal text templates. We trying to help. We ain't come to play. We trying to help you move the doggone thing. We have a hard conversation section. You know, there are some conversations that can get a little rough. We got a section on those too. And so, but we also have a section on imagination because we don't always want to talk about, well, building what was. We want to dream about what we can be. And so as you're having this conversation, we're asking people to imagine. Imagine if there are no barriers. Imagine if you could build this thing all over again. How would it be different? And that may help them connect in a much different way. We threw that in. We are talking about local elections where your vote is the loudest. Um, Building the we. We will do that. We will do that. And actually, Sister Stephanie, we are going to send out a link, I believe, after this training. Holly, are we sending that out? Did I imagine that? Stephanie says she can't access the QR code. And then we've got a section around misinformation, and also a section on celebrating growth. And so I
Yep.
just wanted to let you know we've tried to think of all of the things that you could use to help you in these conversations. And
Mhm.
so, and Stephanie, if you can't get it tonight, it will be on the 1 Million Black Voters Rising website. So the
Yep.
conversation
And it
guide will
will
be there as well.
absolutely. And it's also in the app. And I think it's also part of the workbook that you got yesterday, Stephanie. So if you still don't have it after all of that, just hit me up. We'll make sure that you get it. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I want to remind you that the conversation guides are not answers to questions. The conversation guides are a way to introduce discussion. I know you're like, I don't know anything about how to get streets fixed in my city. I don't know anything about how to explain to people about what's going wrong with Medicare. I don't know anything about how the heck we're going to get out of this war in Afghanistan. I don't know anything about how to talk to people about these price of groceries other than to commiserate. That is not what these conversations are about. We are not asking you to show up as experts. We're asking you to show up as you are. We're asking you to lead a conversation where you ask questions and where you all work together as a community, as a circle of 10 to find answers for yourself, because this is not about lectures. This is about community. This is about how we build power. And we build power by discovering our response together, not by saying, hey, come to my circle so I can tell you everything you didn't know. No, we're asking you to come to the circle so we can grow together, so we can learn together, and so we can do these as a community so that when we stand up and vote, they go, oh, wait a minute now. They don't, when they vote, they bring in 10 people with them. When they vote, they came with a crew. Because as powerful as each of us are in our own individuality, that power exponentially grows when we share it with someone else. And at the end of the day, what we know gets us through this moment isn't just working hard, isn't just pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps, isn't just making sacrifices. Ultimately, what gets us through is when we lock arms and go together, and when we operate as a collective, because we are stronger together. I want to thank all of you for participating in tonight's training. This video, as well as other videos on training, are available at sistersleadsistersvote.org, so you can rewatch it. You can always watch live there as well. We will put the links and make them all available for you so that you have everything you need to make this happen. Our next training will take place on June 20th, where we start back from the beginning. So if this is your first training or your second training and you missed the overview, or if you have friends or people who you want to get involved in 1 million Black voters rising, we always take new people. This is the most inclusive process that you will ever be a part of. And you can join us or come with your friends or send it to your friends and share with your friends to come back and be a part of what we're doing on June 20th. That's when we'll start over again. We'll be doing the overview. We'll explain to people exactly what this is, and we will get them started on building their own circles. Chantel, you've been amazing and fantastic. Thank you once again for giving us a training that matters. I want to thank all of you for spending a little bit of time of your Thursday with us. We did not want to be all night. We just wanted to give you just enough to go ahead and get started. And it looks like from the chat that we have done just that. So we will leave you with this and wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you all so much for participating. Hopefully you'll help find us some folks that will join us on the 20th. See you then.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.